foot of the bed. And in some cases, the headstone would encompass multiple names of the family members. So the footstones would actually mark where the individual was buried on that family lot. This is the headstone. A little difficult to read, but it's Gilbert Woodbury. Gilbert, this is our oldest stone that we have in the cemetery, and Mr. Woodbury passed away in November of 1851. Now, whether or not this is the first burial that took place in the cemetery, we don't know that. All we know is that this is the oldest stone that is in the cemetery. Now, young Gilbert was only 22 years old when he passed away, and his obituary states that his cause of his death was consumption. It's not a term that we hear these days, but back in that time, it was a term that was quite often used when referring to issues having to do with tuberculosis. So, okay, if you follow me this way, we're going to go meet John. Just a couple over. Sometimes stones can be hard to read, especially if you're trying to determine what the last name is. This one has Elba Irene, and she is the wife of, the last name is Spinney, and then John's name's down at the very bottom. Now, little John was just a toddler when he passed away. Their story is that there used to be an ox cart that they used to bring water from the river up to the house. That's not something that we would normally do these days. But on the fateful day of for John, the children were out in the dooryard playing around the ox cart, and it got knocked over. Little John was in the wrong place at the wrong time, and unfortunately did not survive the accident. He was only 21 months old at the time.
Did he die immediately?
I really have no way to know that.
No.
It's just his obituary notes that that was the cause of his death. So one would hope. So this is going to be our final stop here tonight. And I wanted to talk about this stone here first. This is our mystery stone when we first took over the assets of the cemetery. The reason being, the engraving on this stone says lamb, and there's a picture of a lamb, for our darling pet, died December 3rd, 1861, aged 3 years, 7 months. There's no name on this stone. And we had no idea if this was a person or a pet, because it says for our darling pet. But you'll actually learn a little bit more about that in a few minutes. But there's a couple more stones this way, right here, that I wanted to show you. This one in particular. This is the headstone for Ruby Sophia Robinson. And what caught my attention about this stone is, besides Ruby's name, there are 3 children listed that all died within a 2-month time frame. Hannah died August 7th, 1860, on her 11th birthday. Liza died August 30th at age 6, August 31st, pardon me. And John Edward died September 19th at the age of 13. Ruby passed away February the following year. Now, as a mother, I can't fathom what it's like to lose one child, and I can only imagine the heartache that she must have felt losing 3 of them within such a short period of time. And I figured she must have died herself of a broken heart. We didn't really know that much about what had happened to the Robinson family until a little while later, we actually came across the obituary of another daughter, Clara. It was through Clara's obituary that we learned what happened to the Robinson family. But you guys are very fortunate tonight because you don't have to read the obituary, because Clara is here with us.
Sounds like a curse.
Clara.
Hello.
Hello.
Alright. Hello everyone. I hope everything's going well. Hope you're all having a good night tonight. I'd like to talk to you a bit about the history that is carved into these, and how it might not always be the most correct history, I suppose.
So,
As was already mentioned, my name is Clara Robinson. I'm the daughter of Ruby Sophia and John Robinson. I am 20 years old, and I'd like to tell you a bit of the story about what happened to my family. So it was the early summer of 1860, and a terrible disease called diphtheria. I don't know if you've heard of it, maybe you have. It was ravaging through our small community here. My family had already known a bit of loss. We had already lost my eldest brother a few years ago. But that experience, it paled in comparison to what my family was about to go through. So as I said, it was the early summer of 1860, and the disease diphtheria was working its way around my community. My family was one of many families to fall victim to it. My first experience with this was my older sister Hannah, who fell ill and passed away on her 11th birthday on August 7th. Then 3 short weeks later, Eliza fell ill as well and passed and joined Hannah on August 31st. She was 6.5 years old. Then my father and my brother, John Edward, who was 13, fell ill as well, and John passed away on September 19th. Now, in the midst of all this calamity and this heartbreak happening in my family, my mother too fell ill. Now, while she did partially recover, the toll that the grief and the heartache had taken on her heart, on her spirit, and on her body, she wasn't strong enough to survive the winter. She left behind 5 children on February 12th, 1861. It became clear that my father, he wasn't strong enough to take care of the 5 of us left behind. Thankfully, friends and family stepped in to help him raise these 5 children, including myself. Our Aunt Hannah stepped in and took the youngest 2, Mary Jane and Charles Everett. To put that in perspective, Charles, he was a year old when this all occurred. These younger 2 somehow managed to not